Good evening. Welcome to the March 16th edition of the Downers Grove Village Council meeting. We are once again in council chambers, and I think we're all glad to be here. We do have public seating, but we remain mindful of total person limits and IDPH best practices and guidance. So if you're in attendance, please do continue to wear your mask and watch your distance. Commissioner Colavani will be joining us by phone this evening. As always, we'll begin tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Barnett,
Here.
Commissioner Jose,
Here.
Commissioner Earl,
Here.
Commissioner Wallace,
Here.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit,
Here.
Commissioner Colavani,
Here.
Commissioner Gray.
Here.
Awesome, all in attendance. Is there a motion to conduct this meeting electronically?
Mayor, I move that the council conduct the March 16, 2021 Village Council meeting electronically.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Rosa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose,
Aye.
Commissioner Earl,
Aye.
Commissioner Gray,
Aye.
Commissioner Colavani,
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit,
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace,
Aye.
Mayor Barnett.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. As has been our practice, we have moved the public comments portion of the meeting, the portion of the meeting reserved for the public to comment on any subject not on tonight's agenda, to the end of the meeting. That'll allow folks a little more time at home, and they may weigh in electronically from home. We have a presentation this evening, item 3 on our agenda. This is an Economic Development Corporation quarterly report, and we welcome Mr. Casa.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Village Commissioners. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to deliver our quarterly report. Let me start with some end-of-the-year economic data from 2020. It's best assumed forgotten. Okay, so the December 2020 municipal sales tax was down about 2% over the same period a year ago, and the end of the year municipal sales tax revenues were down just under 4% as compared to 2019. The home rule sales tax revenue, again you see the December of 20 results down 14% compared to 19, and then the year-end 20 as compared to the previous year was down a little over 10%. The fourth quarter breakdowns by category, I'll just cover these very briefly. General merchandise this is for the fourth quarter of 20. General merchandise, I'll focus on municipal tax, was down against the fourth quarter of 19. Food, which is principally grocery, was up versus 19. Restaurants, significant reduction in the fourth quarter versus the fourth quarter of 19. This was true for most of the year. Apparel was down, again, for the same period a year ago. Furniture, electronics, and appliances were down, again, fourth quarter of 19 versus fourth quarter of 20. The next category is basically hardware and home improvement, and that was up in the fourth quarter versus the fourth quarter of 19. Automotive, which includes auto sales and gas station sales, were up slightly on the municipal sales tax side in the fourth quarter compared to the 19's fourth quarter. And the last one, drugs and miscellaneous retail. Chunk of this is for prescriptions, but the state also puts just every other type of miscellaneous retail into that. That was down about 6%, although strangely enough, the home rule was up. What's clear from this, and this again the fourth quarter, and this you saw this when I presented the third quarter breakdowns in my September presentation, is that the big game changer for last year for these categories individually was restaurants. Not surprising. Also, grocery was up. People were buying lots of groceries and stocking up at home, and then the other categories were generally down as people just didn't spend money last year. Consumer spending in this country was way down. There's hopeful signs for 2021 in terms of consumer spending, so we'll have to see how those numbers come in. The hotel taxes, I've been telling everyone that no industry has been hit as hard under COVID as the hotel industry, with all due respect to my friends in the restaurant business. The hotels all over the country have just been decimated. You see the fourth quarter results, the December results, 63% versus December of 19, and for the year down a little over 60%. Food and beverage taxes, the December total was down about 26%, and then for the year end for 20 was down 16.7%. Again, directly a function of not just the restaurants, but also the hotels not hosting banquets. Okay, let me just mention a couple things regarding business retention. The first one is we continue to try to make Downers Grove businesses aware of grant programs. Spent a lot of time in 20 as we pivoted to retention. There were state programs that had some modest success because frankly, a lot of those programs, DuPage County did not qualify. And then the county had 3 separate iterations of its small business relief program, and we did very well. Downers Grove, I believe, was second only to Naperville total in the county in terms of businesses getting some grants. We also worked with the village on that Dine DG Take Home for the Holidays program, which I talked about when I was here in December. It ended in early January. It was a pretty big success. 1,303 members of our community signed up, almost 600 posts of carry-out food, take-home food, and then we awarded 18 of them at random $100 gift certificates to the restaurants of their choice. We are looking to continue this under a different marketing program, and we'll let you know what that is. The main point of my meeting, my presentation today, are the highlights of wins, and I do this at every first quarter presentation before the council. So let me start with commercial projects. These are some of the companies that came to Downers Grove or began the process to get their business started in 2020. Barchito, which is the Mexican restaurant, which will be next door to Pierce Tavern, same owners, expected to open very soon. Foxtail had their grand opening about a week before the COVID crisis hit. It seems like a million years ago that happened. Giamia, which opened in November in our downtown and has just been doing great. It's their 4th location, and they're in the former Scarletti's and RBK site. Goldfinger Brewing Company, another company that opened during the COVID crisis last year. They opened in July, and over on Rogers Street. They took over the former sales office of Permaseal and are doing very well, but of course they had the same challenges that others in the restaurant and craft brewing industry had last year. Starbucks built a new location in the Downers Grove Market Center. That's the center that has a Hobby Lobby and Aldi. They moved just a few doors down, built a new facility with a drive-through, and then we'll be announcing soon the restaurant that'll be backfilling that space that they used to be in. Wasabi was another one that opened, another restaurant in our downtown that opened just before COVID hit. And I think that was the last grand opening that I went to before we all went indoors. Again, they're doing very well, and just like a lot of our restaurants in town, I'm just astonished at the tiny number that have closed. It is a small number. I think it speaks volumes about the support that the village gave the restaurant community. I think the work the EDC did, downtown management, and our restaurants have just hung in there. They've just toughed it out. Ross Builders is the company that is building the 18-unit apartment building at the corner of 2nd and Fairview, and the place that closed gas station. The Tivoli received village approval last year for plans to open a 33-seat theater, which they'll be opening soon. And of course, the Tivoli has announced that they will be reopening their 1,000-seat theater very soon as well. Vequity Real Estate had 2 projects in 2020. The first one was that they redeveloped the corner of 63rd and Main. It is now a mobile station and a 7-Eleven. And the one that in our office we call Vequity 4 because it's their 4th project. It's the redevelopment of the patio furniture store at Ogden and Forest. And they're going to be demolishing the building and breaking ground very soon. Noodles and Company, a restaurant we've been trying to get in town for a long time, will be the one of the 2 restaurants in that development. I'm going to mention 4 office projects in 2020. First one is Crown Castle. They opened their new corporate headquarters at Highland Landmark. Crown Castle is a provider of communications infrastructure, and the company consolidated several Chicago area offices into a single 50,000 square foot headquarters, and they opened that in the the spring of 20. DuPage Medical Group received village approval for a new medical facility in downtown Downers at 5207 Main last year. The center opened this past January. There was a complete remodeling of the interior and improvements to the facade. Instant Brands, recently formerly known as Corel Brands, it's a global manufacturer of kitchen products such as Corel. They are now moving their corporate headquarters from Rosemont to Downers Grove. Company is leasing a full floor at Highland Landmark. Instant Brands will complete its build-out of its new headquarters this spring. And the last office project I wanted to mention, another corporate headquarters, a company called Stenograph. They relocated their corporate headquarters to Downers Grove in October. The company is now located at 2626 Warrenville Road in the Corridors Park. Stenograph is a leading supplier of productivity tools for the court reporting industry. And then, as you have heard me mention before, the industrial sector had the least impact of any of the sectors in the country during 2020 and COVID. Most of them were designated as essential businesses, and were able to make those safety improvements and safeguards in their building, and they were able to continue working. But we did have some wins last year. Bridgepoint Downers Grove developed the project over on Finley. They completed their nearly 700,000 square foot warehouse and office project, and are now fully leased on that 53-acre site. Their lead tenant is Amazon, which completed the development of their Downers Grove warehouse project last year. Amazon is occupying a little over 500,000 square feet in 2 of the 3 buildings. Cooper's Hawk opened their new 20,000 square foot distribution center in Bridgepoint during the first quarter of 20. And this comes on the heels of them opening their largest restaurant winery in their chain and moving their corporate headquarters to Downers Grove. Those were in 2019. Remedy Senior Care opened a 50,000 square foot distribution center also at Bridgepoint in 2020. Remedy supplies long-term senior products to pharmacies throughout the United States. And ThyssenKrupp opened their new 25,000 square foot distribution center at Bridgepoint. The company is based in Germany, and is one of the 10 largest companies in the world in terms of revenue. And Thyssen has over 670 subsidiaries in over 100 countries. And one of their facilities is here in Downers Grove. FlavorChem. They completed the design and remodeling of one of their buildings on Center Circle in the Oak Grove Commons Business Park in the summer of 2020. The 25,000 square foot facility is now their new innovation center, featuring labs, dedicated application centers, and a test kitchen. I had a chance to tour this innovation center a few months ago. It is nothing short of spectacular. And they had to shelve their idea for a grand opening because of the pandemic, but at some point they're going to do that, and I encourage everyone to go and see that facility. It's amazing. Green Bay Packaging completed construction of their new facility on the site of the former Perk and Elmer building on the northwest corner of Warrenville and Finley. The company opened their new 170,000 square foot distribution and design center in early part of 2020. NTI National Technologies relocated their corporate headquarters to Thatcher in the Ellsworth Business Park in the first quarter of 20. NTI provides fiber optics and structured cabling services for data centers and other applications. And the last one is Precision Aero Gear. It is the largest facility in the Ellsworth Business Park. They completed an expansion of their campus in the fall of 2020. In addition, the company made substantial improvements to the interior of their two buildings. So I wanted to go through a few of the companies that either started the process to come to town last year, received approvals, or completed their projects last year. And that is my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thanks, Michael. Any comments or questions from council?
Sure.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Michael, first of all, when we walk through these, each time we walk through these, I think I'm just amazed at what your office is able to do under very hard circumstances. When we spoke last time and walked through Q3, my big concern was, what does the commercial look like? Because it just was one of those areas that didn't have a direction yet. And when you look at things that have kind of held steady from Q3 to Q4, groceries, home improvement, gas station travel pattern, all these things, housing outliers, when you look at things like the commercial and the office projects, it's a very strong indicator as to what we've been able to withstand and where the village of Downers Grove is going. It is a combination of everyone working together, but I think it's also very much a testament to you and what you do for the village. So thank you, sir.
Thank you for those very kind, generous comments, Commissioner. Downers Grove has a reputation in the entire Chicago area, and now frankly around the country, as being a great place to do business. And that was earned. That's not something that just happened overnight. And I think last year during the COVID crisis, I mean, we're still in that crisis, but last year, I think is when I made a comment to our village manager, you know, Downers Grove really shines the best when there's an emergency. That's when we're at our best, no doubt. And I think last year, the village, the EDC, downtown management, all working together, pivoted and made our focus, how can we help our existing businesses? I just think it was an overwhelming success. And the happy byproduct of that was it showed the business community, wow, these people really care about us. I mean, they're contacting us, how can we help you? Secondly, I mean, I'm just fortunate to work in a community that has that reputation and I think provides a strong pro-business infrastructure in town. We've got a great location, it's a great place to open a business or to expand your business. And the third one is, you know, the village just gives our office tremendous support, the council, the village staff. So thank you for your comments, but you're right, it's all part of a great team that we have here, and hopefully 21 won't be as hard as 20, but if it is, we're ready for it.
Marge.
I just want to say thank you, Michael, because I've been sitting here or in the back long enough to know that this is amazing we've had normal quarters and normal years that didn't look as good as last year looked, which is just absolutely amazing and is truly a testament to the work you and your colleagues have done over at the EDC, and I just want to thank you for it.
Well, thank you very much for those comments. Thank you.
Leslie?
I will echo all of the thank yous, so I need to repeat. One question I do have is that, do you see any future support coming from this new relief bill? Is that...
There are two provisions in it that I haven't examined yet. One is there is some additional funds for restaurants. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work. I've contacted the offices of both of our Congressman Caston and Foster. Do you have something you could send me? And the second one is there is some additional money for small business. So I'll be honest, I haven't analyzed it yet, but once we get something on paper, we will get that out to the business community. You know, when there are still some things that were in the COVID package that was signed in late December. For example, there's something called the Shuttered Venue Grant Program, which the Tivoli clearly can qualify for. It still hasn't been posted, the application form, on the SBA's website. So I've also asked our congressional friends, when is that going to happen? And so, I mean, there's literally, I mean, it's billions and billions of dollars that have not been applied for. So part of our job is to identify where those opportunities are and then notify the business community. Although, I will tell you, most of our companies and downers are pretty savvy. They get to it before I can even tell them about it. Thank you.
Michael, I just want to add that I'm most appreciative for the pivot work. You guys you and your team have an excellent reputation that's well-deserved. As Marge said, there's been years maybe up and down, but we have a great track record of you guys and the work you've done. But that work to help switch to retention, to help people find grants, to work on the Dine at DG program, the shift that you guys did, none of that was on your list in January. None of that was on your list in February. And the fact that those efforts were not only made but were successful efforts, I think is really something that you guys should be proud of. And I just want to thank you on behalf of the village. It was great work.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I should come here every meeting. Thank you.
Anyone else? Rich, you got anything for Mike?
Yeah, just a quick comment. Thank you, Michael, for the comprehensive report and your fine work and your team last year. And it's really gratifying to see so many companies and organizations betting with their dollars on Downers Grove. It gives me great hope for our future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Item 4 on our agenda tonight are minutes of previous council meeting. Is there a motion concerning the minutes of the council meeting on March 2nd?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the March 2nd, 2021 minutes as presented.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Rosa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Earl?
Aye.
Commissioner Gray?
Aye.
Commissioner Colavani?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Aye. Is there a motion concerning minutes of the executive session meeting on January 19th and February 16th?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the executive session minutes for January 19th and February 16th, 2021 as presented.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the council? Rosa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Earl?
Aye.
Commissioner Gray?
Aye.
Commissioner Colavani?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Aye. Item 5 is our consent agenda. Is there a motion concerning the consent agenda tonight?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any comments or questions on the consent agenda? Rosa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Earl?
Aye.
Commissioner Gray?
Aye.
Commissioner Colavani?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Aye. Item 6 on our agenda is our active agenda. We do not have any active agenda items tonight, so we'll move on to our first reading, agenda item 7. These are subjects we plan to not take any action on, but begin discussing this evening, or perhaps continue discussions on. With that, Dave, I'll hand it over to you.
Only one item tonight, Mayor, on the first reading agenda, and Michael's previous presentation went so well that I thought I'd invite him back up to announce another new business investing in the Downers Grove community. The item is actually an ordinance authorizing a sales tax rebate agreement with Steinhoffels. Mr. Casson.
Mr. Mayor, Village Commissioners, I neglected to give my address the first time, so it's 5159 Mokel in downtown Downers Grove. I think for 10 years I'd learned to do that. I am here tonight to present the proposed sales tax rebate agreement between the Village of Downers Grove and Steinhoffels Incorporated. Steinhoffels plans to lease this space at 1021 Butterfield Road. Steinhoffels is a fourth-generation, family-owned furniture retailer based in Wisconsin. Their first store was opened in 1934. They have 14 stores in Wisconsin and 2 in Illinois. Steinhoffels has decided to open their third store in Illinois in Downers Grove. They plan to open that store this fall. Fred Schweiner of Steinhoffels contacted me last fall. Mr. Schweiner is Director of Stores for Steinhoffels. He indicated that the company was very interested in the former Art Van location on Butterfield Road. Steinhoffels is projecting sales of at least $21 million at this location, with a projection of 3% increase in sales per year. The store is expected to generate a net of $352,000 for the village in their first year of operation. Steinhoffels will make improvements to the 2-story, 112,000 square foot building. The village and the EDC worked very, very hard to attract Art Van to this location. It was a heartbreaker when they closed. They opened in 2015, and as you know, closed in March of 20. I am so pleased that within a year of Art Van closing their doors, that store now has an opportunity to backfill that space and do it with a quality retailer. The agreement before you has the following provisions. Steinhoffels shall commence the remodeling of the building no later than 6 months after the approval of this agreement, and shall complete the remodeling within 1 year after the start of construction. Steinhoffels shall operate a furniture store for a minimum of 15 years. They shall comply with all village ordinances and regulations. The village shall rebate to Steinhoffels an amount equal to 40% of the municipal sales tax generated by the store. Rebate payments shall be made for 10 years from the date of the store's commences operating until the village has paid a total of $800,000 in rebates, whichever comes first. The village shall hold back an annual amount equal to 25% of the annual rebate payment owed to Steinhoffels. In the event that Steinhoffels fails to continue to operate the store according to the agreement, the village shall keep the amount held back. In the event that Steinhoffels does not operate a furniture store for the required 15 years, they shall reimburse the village for all or a portion of the rebate payments according to the schedule in the agreement. Hopefully a company that's been around since 1934 won't be going anywhere. I've spoken to many people who are originally from Wisconsin, and they speak very highly about Steinhoffels. Some of those are on our executive committee. I've enjoyed getting to know Fred Schweiner, and I look forward to continue working with him before and after the ribbon is cut on their new store. Fred is here tonight, along with Chad Dern, who's a director of marketing, and I know that Fred would like to say a few words. Before I call him up, I also want to say thank you to the village staff for their work on this project, particularly Dave, Enza, and Stan Popovich. Downers Grove Economic Development Corporation strongly supports the proposed sales tax rebate agreement between the village and Steinhoffels. Fred, you want to come up and say a few words? And then we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Good evening, and thanks for having me here this evening. Steinhoffels, like Michael said, has been a business that's been in business since 1934. I was fortunate to join Steinhoffels, celebrate my 17th anniversary here, and I can tell you the family feeling of Village of Downers Grove and all my meetings with Michael really represents who we are. To keep it really simple, we're a company that strives to be consistent. We are a very humble company, fourth generation, and we constantly look to improve, and that's the reason why we chose this location. It really fills our perfect triangle, I would call it, in Illinois. You know, there may be future locations, but the right location for us is Downers Grove. And we're a very passionate company. We're dedicated to customer experience, and more importantly, the associates' experience. I think that the jobs we're going to create are going to far succeed as just the customer experience that we're going to deliver in Downers Grove. But we're very blessed to be here. 2020 for us was a very difficult year. We went through a lot of situations like a lot of retailers and other businesses have, and we strove through that through one very important ingredient, one of the last ingredients of our company values, and that's our financial prudency. I don't think you're going to see a company like us as far as how strong we are financially in this industry. We're literally one of the top 100 retailers in the United States, and we network with a lot of outstanding companies throughout the nation. So I think this is just a perfect blend for us to enter into Downers Grove. So with that, I just want to stress how thankful we are, and hopefully everything goes well. Questions?
Any questions? Marge?
I don't have a question, but I just want to, I've shopped your store in Kenosha. I just want to thank you guys for coming and taking a chance on Downers Grove. We've got some great furniture stores here, and I think being in your store, there's a wide variety, each every end of the spectrum, price points, and I think it'll be a great fit for the village of Downers Grove, and really thank you for bringing your company here and investing in our town.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the Kenosha location is, I think it's one of the third oldest locations within our company, and what we're going to bring to Downers Grove is going to resemble more of what you see in Crystal Lake, and that is going to be every time we open up a store, there's one step that we need to take a little further to make it look better, and this is going to be our best step forward. So thank you for those kind comments.
Anyone else?
I just want to echo a sentiment, say, thank you for considering investing in our community. Thank you for heading a little bit further south. I understand you're in Crystal Lake and Vernon Hills,
Yep.
right? So thanks for coming a little bit further south to us. And we appreciate your investment in our town. Welcome.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Fred, I hope you've enjoyed your experience so far, and I hope you continue to enjoy it, and thank you to you and your entire team.
Pittman staff had dinner tonight at First Palace. They morning home for a little.
Yes. Absolutely. We'll be doing a lot more of that.
Well, when you talk about that feeling of family, that, one of the things you heard, maybe not quite so explicitly, but in Michael's report is this community last year, as much as any, doubled down on itself and tried to support our local businesses, and I suspect you'll be a recipient of a similar kind of attitude. Downers is focused on trying to improve Downers, and we're glad you're part of that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Comments or questions on subject matter? The agreement itself. I'm sorry, Craig. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to echo the thanks to Steinhoffels, but I also want to give praise once again to the EDC for helping to identify this and bring them to town. Everybody was really disappointed when Art Van entered bankruptcy. The facility was previously the Home Depot Expo, and it sat vacant for a very long time before Art Van came. And there was some concern, given the economic situation, that kind of thing could happen again. And here we are in the midst of the crisis still continuing with this deal right in front of us. And I think it's just a fantastic thing. Thank you to the EDC. Thank you to Steinhoffels. I look forward to supporting you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions on the deal? Rich, I don't want to forget about you. Do you have any thoughts on the Steinhoffel proposal?
Yeah, I echo what my colleagues have said. I'm particularly pleased with the agreement to stay here for 15 years. It's great to have that long-term commitment, and this is also even a better deal compared to Art Van. So thank you very much.
Okay, continue on.
That ends our first reading tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
You're not off the hook. Item 8 is our manager's report. Right back at you.
One item on tonight's manager's report, it's really a discussion and a presentation of an exciting project, a plan for the construction of sidewalks near grade schools in our community. Here to present the proposed sidewalk plan is our Director of Public Works, Andy Sikich.
Thank you, Dave. Good evening. So So tonight, it's my pleasure to present the staff recommendations regarding sidewalks in the proximity of District 58 grade schools. Last year, several residents petitioned the village for a sidewalk on the south side of Norfolk from Saratoga to Carpenter. The village council considered this request on September 15th and directed staff to prepare a plan for construction of sidewalks near District 58 schools. The FY21 budget includes $220,000 for this project. Staff started this with a review of the existing sidewalk systems near District 58 schools. For about 30 years, the village had a policy of constructing sidewalks on at least one side of every street, and as a result, all of these schools are served by sidewalks on at least one side of the surrounding streets. These existing sidewalks were generally constructed on the side of the street with fewer neighborhood impacts, which means that any proposed segments will be on the more challenging side of the street and generally will require more neighborhood trade-offs like tree removal, drainage, grading, etc. Staff evaluated many potential sidewalk segments and developed a proposed 4-year plan, which includes 5 sidewalk segments at 4 school campuses. These should be each considered as standalone projects and should be further evaluated for specific neighborhood trade-offs. Staff is proposing the construction of these sidewalks over the next 4 years, and District 58 staff support this plan. On this slide, you can see the specific segments that are proposed. Over the next several slides, I'll show you maps of each segment, which should be a little easier to see. The first segment proposed is along the south side of Norfolk from Saratoga to Main Street. The originally requested sidewalk was from Saratoga to Carpenter, but staff feels it would be beneficial to extend it from Saratoga to Main. Various other segments at Fairmount and O'Neill, Pierce Downer and Herrick, and Highland would follow this in the following 3 years. As you can see, each of these segments will require multiple neighborhood trade-offs, and the total estimated cost of this program over 4 years is $500,000 to $750,000. Staff is proposing the following decision-making process to be followed on each proposed segment. Each segment would undergo a preliminary design to determine the specific trade-offs required, along with detailed cost estimate. And included in this process would be a neighborhood meeting so that staff can take resident input into consideration during the design process. Staff will make every effort to reduce the neighborhood impacts and cost. Staff would then present these findings to the village council for input and direction. If council wishes to proceed at that point, final design and bidding would be performed, and a construction contract would then be brought to council for final approval. These are the maps now. On this slide, you can see the sidewalk in the Kingsley neighborhood on the south side of Norfolk, like we mentioned, from Saratoga to Main. This slide here depicts a sidewalk adjacent to Fairmount and O'Neill on the east side of Blodgett from 59th to 61st. On this slide, you can see proposed sidewalks near Pierce Downer and Herrick along the east side of Oakwood from Ogden to Grant and along the north side of Grant from Oakwood to Saratoga. And the final segment here is in the Highland neighborhood along the east side of Forest, south of 39th to the vacant 40th Street right-of-way. In addition to the 4-year plan, staff identified 20 sidewalk segments that should be considered in the future. And these sidewalks would be facilitated by and bundled with other construction projects, such as water main, roadway construction, drainage projects, things like that. As they are identified, staff will then include them in the CIP and will present the specific trade-offs and costs to the council with each overall project. This final slide here depicts the proposed project schedule for 2021, which would be for the Norfolk sidewalk. And you can see that there will be 2 additional opportunities for village council input and to make a go, no-go decision based on the required neighborhood trade-offs and costs as they are specifically identified. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Thanks, Andy. Any questions from anyone in the audience tonight on this subject? Okay, question or comments from the council? Kavanaugh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what I remember about, thank you, Andy, for the presentation. What I remember about the September 15th meeting was out of all the meetings that we have been in this environment, it represented one where both our community, our parents, our village and our commissioner group and the mayor, we were all on one accord for solving a problem that was important to the community. And when you walk through this presentation, it's very clear that we were able to hear that concern, and the response and how this is laid out is fantastic. And so just a thank you to everyone involved in this. As a parent, you can hear the parents' concerns. And so to see this, knowing that it is going to be rolled out in these tiers in the manner in which it's rolled out is just fantastic news. So thank you.
Thank you.
Greg?
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Gray put it very well. I would just add that I think improving the walkability of our neighborhoods is a good thing. Making sure that kids can get to school very safely is a good thing. And I know that we have potential conflicts here in terms of trees, in terms of concerns about stormwater, but I know that our Public Works Department is going to do everything possible to minimize those conflicts. And I think we'll end up with some very good projects. So I'm in complete favor of this, and I look forward to the future projects. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right. I think that's it. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you very much.
That'll wrap up the manager's report. I want to just take a moment to really compliment all the teammates who worked on the District 58 sidewalk plan, headed up by Andy. Andy does such a great job of taking technical input from the engineers on our team, planning input from the planners on our team, and combining it with council direction and neighborhood input. His value is absolutely on display, a unique skill set. So thank you very much to Andy and everybody on that team. And that ends our manager's report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Item 9 on our agenda are public comments. This is the portion of the meeting reserved for public comments of a general nature, comments not on a specific agenda item. So we'll start with the audience that's here in-house. If there's anyone that has an item, please come on down to the podium. Introduce yourself. Tell us what's on your mind.
Good evening. My name is Preston Stroud. I've been here several times. I was here a couple of times before we were rudely interrupted by this virus. And the matter that I'm here about is regarding the Village Square 3 Condominium Association and where we're at with it. We had an OV case, which I think the mayor alluded to the last time I was here, and he didn't really want to speak about it. That case has ended. Before it ended, I made a request to Jeffrey Pendelski that we be allowed to do what we want over there in our buildings, that they didn't meet certain requirements where we should have to maintain non-life safety devices in our setting, and that we wanted to do our own thing with life safety devices, interconnected smokes. And I made a request to do that, and he denied it. As the authority having jurisdiction, he denied it. And then I finally found a procedure to be disconnected from Downers Grove, and I asked to be disconnected from that, and Chris Hull denied that. And so again, I took those to the appeals board, which doesn't exist, and asked that it could be heard by an appeals board. And I have a reply from Stan from the building department that basically says that our request for an appeal is denied again. Okay? Now this is an appeals board that this council has established in this village, and this is the second time that we've been denied to approach it, okay, to present our issues for a proper appeal, okay? And so then what I did was I wrote a letter to the building manager, because one other time when I was here, I believe it was suggested that I might be able to have an item put on this council's agenda to take a closer look at the things we'd like to have you look at, since we haven't been able, sorry to be redundant, to have the appeals board look at it. So I wrote a letter to David Feldman to ask if this could be put on the agenda, and he replied, and I have a copy of his reply for you, that I come and stand at this podium instead. And so that's why I'm here, to present this to you again. More importantly, when our request for appeal was denied, I wrote a FOIA request And I said, how is it denied? Who denied it? Who in this village is denying these things? I asked. And I got a response that says that your FOIA request is denied. You obviously can't know who denied it, okay? So I just don't understand what's going on here. When we make a request to go to the appeals board and it gets denied, who has the authority to deny it? I mean, who's stopping it? I don't understand. And then when I ask who stopped it, I get nothing. Total nothing. Roadblock. It's nothing. Well, your request is denied. So I sent it down to the Attorney General's office, okay? That's a whole nother matter. That's not why I'm really here to throw that in your face. What I'm here is I want you to consider putting this on your agenda. I want you to understand that our units over there have no common hallways. We have our own entry doors, private dwelling units, okay, with their own exit at grade, which is a clear exception in the International Fire Code, which continually is denied by your fire department and everybody else. So that's why I'm here. I'm hoping, okay, that the council will look at this, because you're the last stop. You really are. Because as I said from my each visit here, everyone that I've approached through the village has done nothing but say, no, sorry, can't help you. And so I'm basically here to see if this council that runs the village will look at this issue, because it's a real issue. It's not a made-up issue, okay? We feel we have the right to do what we want, and there's other factors which I'm not going to discuss in this here open forum, okay? I'm just not. But I am here to give you this, for you to look at, there's 6 of you. I wish you would look at it and at least consider allowing us an opportunity to present more material to you, so you consider what we're trying to do. We're not trying to be stupid. We're trying to get rid of devices that don't save lives and put devices in that do save lives. I don't understand. Can I hand these to someone? Thank you.
Hand them right there.
I don't understand, why you would be opposed to such a thing, other than, I don't want to get into other things. I don't want to get into rumors and what I've heard and this and that. I don't want to do that. I'm not doing that. I just want to present what I have to you and hope that you'll take a look at it and maybe somehow come to some kind of decision where we can put more of this in front of you. Because we've had no other opportunity to present it to anybody to get relief.
Okay, we'll take a look at it. It's it has been through the courts a couple of times, right?
It's been through an OV case. That's not through the courts.
Mayor, if I may add,
Yeah, please
this
do.
case is currently pending in
Oh,
the
it's still
appellate
pending.
court.
Okay.
The OV case has concluded, and Mr. Straub has elected to appeal it to the second district.
Okay.
So it is currently pending in the appellate court.
Oh, all right. Well, then we stand really at a very similar point we were last time, which is we're going to let that play itself out before this board comments on it.
And that's your reply?
That's my reply.
Okay. It's fine, I'm done.
Okay.
Have a good night. Thanks for your time.
Other comments or questions of general nature? Come on down.
Hi, everyone. Mel Hackett, principal of Kingsley School. Just on behalf of all of us from District 58, just want to give a big thank you. Kind of like what you said, just in terms of the partnership. I know specifically my community at Kingsley, but truly, this has just been ongoing with you guys, so we can't thank you enough. And obviously, Andy and Dave and, Mayor Barnett, truly thank you for this. I know my students, seeing them, especially nowadays, we're outside helping with the arrival and dismissals every day, seeing the students walk across, having to cross both sides of the streets. This is just going to be just tremendous for our student safety. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Come on down.
fellow council. You've been dying for public comments, and you got more than I expected you would receive tonight. Mayor, first of all, was your intention to ramrod through the prior part of the agenda without asking for public comments during the Economic Development Council report and the rebate discussion? There was no opportunity for public comment at that juncture. I didn't know if that was because you'd grown accustomed to not having public here, or whether you were trying to ramrod.
So we learn a lot when we choose words. Ramrod is an interesting selection, David, and I think you probably know the answer to your question. We do not normally have public comment questions to other members who are presenting to this group. If you have a question, I'm sure we could take it now, and I'm certain we could get it answered.
I had a comment about the report by the environmental development person. Specifically, in all the reports, including the report this evening, I didn't hear any discussion actually that provided systematic information. He listed wins, for example, but since this group and the economic development group is oriented more toward boosterism, to me that doesn't strike me as a report. It strikes me as omitting stuff that from a citizen's perspective would be helpful as information in terms of what's the space in Downers Grove, the commercial space in Downers Grove, how is it divided up, what's vacant, what's not vacant, what's been vacated, and so forth. The focus on wins strikes me as being fairly one-sided and doesn't provide a complete picture in that regard. And I think it would be helpful for the future that such information be more systematic. I don't know if it has the information. I saw a report last year that made mention that data was going to be collected. I've never seen, as I say, in any of the reports here that suggest any data actually exists. So that's one comment.
Okay.
A second comment concerned the rebate proposal. I guess I had two comments with respect to that. The first one concerned the financial impact of Art Van closing its shop and what the financial repercussions of that were. And then secondly, as a direct question to the people who have now vacated, if they didn't get the rebate agreement, are they not coming to Downers Grove? And I guess in asking that question, my question is, if it's such a wonderful spot, how important is the rebate agreement and how flexible is the rebate agreement? How would we find out information about that kind of thing?
You ever bought a car? Have you ever bought a car?
Have I bought a car? Yes.
Do you know you paid the lowest possible price for it?
Who knows?
All right, exactly. Somebody comes and approaches the village with a proposal. And we collectively, which is this body, plus our staff, plus our Economic Development Corporation, who, by the way, are hired professionals with a long history of experience in that field, enter into a conversation with whoever that is. And they try and ascertain the answers to those questions. And we make judgment calls on them. And it is entirely unlikely that you're going to hear in a setting like this, an organization like Steinhafels or a Ford dealership or the next house builder say, if I don't get it, I'm leaving. But what's happening is people are actually working together to try and meet the needs of the village, which are revenue, and meet the needs of the owners of the business, which are revenue, and try and find a way to balance those. As I think Commissioner Jose mentioned, or perhaps it was Commissioner Gray, this proposal provides a net gain to the village as compared to the previous proposal, and way the heck better than zero. I think Greg has said a lot of times some portion of something is a lot better than some portion of zero.
I'm sorry, previous proposal refers to what?
Art Van. So what is certainly true is businesses come and businesses go. They fail, they get bought, they get sold, people retire. That's what happens. That's just the way it works. So our Economic Development Corporation is charged on behalf of the village to engage in the business of attracting and retaining businesses. And that is a constant negotiation and dialogue. Your question about systematic information is a good one. We'll ask some additional questions. The answers to your specific question about Steinhafel, it's a negotiation process over time with a variety of parties participating.
What about the Art Van financial impact? Is there information available?
Yeah,
about
there is.
that?
I don't have it at my fingertips, but yeah, we absolutely know because we had a sales tax rebate agreement with Art Van, so we know what the net was. I don't have it at my fingertips, but we could get it if that's of interest to you.
So that would be something, what, I would call you up and...
You could email Dave. That would probably be the best and fastest thing.
A last part, if I may, as well, on the subject that you enjoy hearing me talk about. I want to follow up a little bit from the last time I spoke, which was last year before things shut down, regarding the whole issue of environmental sustainability. I specifically wanted to not talk so much, but to ask, since Commissioner Jose was firm in rejecting my assertion that the definition that the council has and the inaction that the council continues to not undertake, I wanted to start out by asking Commissioner Jose if he could state the definition of environmentally sustainable that the council uses. Is that possible, Commissioner Jose?
Hey, David, this portion of the meeting is designed for questions to be asked, typically answered at a later date, or statements to be made, and the whole thing limited in time. It's not a individual debate with 6 or 7 council members. That's not what it is. You can ask a question and ask that people get back to you, but we're not going to have a back and forth debate with individual council members. That's just not what this is for.
Well, given how long I've been coming up here making comments, and given that the council has never gotten back to me in any form whatsoever about any of the observations I've made.
It's possible that there's disagreement. You ask questions that
I'm
don't
not-
get answered because in many cases, they're not really questions, are they? They're statements. So if you've got questions, lay them out there, and I'm sure individual council members will be willing to get back to you, or perhaps not. But it's not, we're not going to debate here in this forum.
There is disagreement. There is inaction. I'm, as a citizen of Downers Grove, concerned about both what I perceive as an inadequate definition and the inaction that I perceive is not happening here in Downers Grove, given that you profess this is a primary objective, a primary goal. I've submitted much material. I've been up here for a long time. I get pithy remarks in response to what I've said, but there's never been any systematic response of any sort. So as a way to try to ascertain where we stand, I thought it would be helpful for Commissioner Jose or someone here to actually state what it is that they understand to be environmentally sustainable. And then we could, that would help me in terms of understanding how to proceed.
Okay.
Mayor? Just briefly?
Sure.
David, there is a fundamental disagreement there, and I'm happy to continue the conversation offline. The mayor's right. This isn't a back and forth in this particular forum. So thanks for coming. Stick around. Let's talk.
Let me ask a related question beyond the disagreement. Can you elaborate on the process the council went through, any of you, with respect to how you arrived at the definition?
The definition of environmental sustainability, that has been an evolving definition for at least the entire 10 years that I was up here. And I suspect if we're doing our job, it continues to evolve. So no, can I give you 2 or 3 sentences that tell you how the village of Downers Grove arrived at something that's been in our mindset and in our focus for the better part of 2 decades? No, I can't. We could begin to try and assemble documents and you could research them, I suppose, but that's an evolving decision or an evolving definition that affects our priorities, and it will continue to do so. I assure you that this council and the next one and the next one will continue to have a focus on it. It may not match yours, but I am certain that it will continue to be a focus and that those definitions and priorities will continue to evolve as well.
Let me ask a final question for this evening. Over the last year, what actions do you imagine that the council took with respect to the subject?
we spent the last year, as you probably know, very much in a let's do nothing, wait and see mode. We joined, frankly, most municipalities in that same role. And you know, I can't point to one particular environmental thing we did that might help you feel better about our definition. I just can't do that. We spent most of 2020 in a hunkered down, not do anything mode to try and see what was going to shake out from the pandemic.
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, Commissioner Jose, how should I imagine we would pursue this conversation?
Well, if you'll hang around, we can chat here.
Mr. Baker, did anything come in online while we had the meeting going?
No, Mayor, no additional remarks.
Okay, thank you. Item 10 is our attorney's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Only one item tonight, and it is an ordinance authorizing the execution of a sales tax rebate agreement with Steinhoffels, Inc. It will be on the next active agenda. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Enza. Item 11, mayor and council member reports. This is an opportunity for council members to weigh in on goings-on in their community, other organizations they might be in touch with, things they think folks should know about. We also have a new business item tonight. Leslie, I'm going to leave it up to you. Do you want to start with that, or do you want to go around the Rehoboth first?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to explore our partnership with the Downers Grove Public Library and Downers Grove Historical Society to research the indigenous history of the land covered by Downers Grove village boundaries, and consider a land acknowledgement statement to be placed on the village website regarding the history of indigenous lands.
Second.
Okay, some discussion. Leslie, why don't you start and further define this for us? That's kind of the process we use.
Yeah, I can give context. So there have been a few residents that have approached us with this. I did a little bit of research into it. I'm requesting this to honor the rich history of indigenous tribes in the area. We do know that the Kickapoo, Peoria, Kaskaskia, Potawatomi, Miami, once called Downers Grove land home, and it's possible there are others. My hope is that we can partner with some of the folks who we already have great relationships with, who kind of do this at a regular basis, to add to the heritage of the indigenous tribes to our history. It fits in well to me with our long-range plan item to encourage diversity, equity, and inclusion in our village and all that we do. It may make people uncomfortable at first because we know they were forcibly removed from land, but we need to acknowledge the things that make us uncomfortable in our past and recognize that it's not all dire and depressing. There are still members of these tribes that are still living and breathed today. And so perhaps we can, by doing this, we can start to honor those descendants who are still living in our country to ensure that their rich history is not forgotten in the area. It is important to make this first step of acknowledgement. It's being mindful of the choices that we've made in the past, and as we can discuss those, it just shows that we can do better going forward. And I would love to see it maybe encourage a celebration of indigenous art, books, and just incorporating this history into the village of Downers Grove. So it would be just that nice first step to start to explore other cultures that once lived here.
Okay. Additional comments or questions from the rest of the council? Marge?
I do have a question. Are you, is this work staff is going to be doing, or is this work the library is going to be doing, or is this work that the Historical Society is going to be doing? Who are you proposing is doing the work? That's all.
So some of the residents that I've been working with are already starting to kind of take a look at some of this and have already contacted the Historical Society, and they were, when they called back, they were interested in pursuing this further. So we do already have some interest from the Downers Grove Historical Society as of right now. So yes, there's a group of residents who are focused on this and have been engaging some of our local organizations.
Okay.
Those are partnership really.
Others?
I have a question. So a lot of land acknowledgements in the research that we were given from staff, a lot of those are also read before meetings. So is this just a suggestion for the website? Is it a suggestion for
I think it's, for now, I would say it's a suggestion for the website until we can do a little bit more research and just acknowledge things in a better way. I don't really want to jump into something and do it.
I just wanted to clarify that because that was part of that.
I would rather make it first as a statement and then see if perhaps, we can incorporate a little bit more culture in terms of parks or whatnot.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin?
Thank you, Mayor. I think one of when I think about what we are proposing to do here, I called this when we first read it. I thought it was one of the most impactful things that we were entertaining or thinking about in terms of how do you begin to move a needle on a topic that, as Leslie mentioned, is uncomfortable. One of the things that stands out in a road trip out west was driving through parts of our country that had rich, deep history of indigenous people being a part of there and not seeing absolutely anything related to their culture. I thought it was mind-blowing. I was trying to explain to my kids, hey, this is a part of the little that I know, and instead of it being promoted and celebrated, it almost was, what's the stuff that you used to use on paper when we had typewriters? It was white out, thank you. It was just whited out. And I thought, man, how sad is it? I thought it was really sad. And so I think that this is an opportunity in reading this proposal. It says that this is a start to building a better respect and understanding of indigenous people. And so I'm in favor of seeing where this goes. I think, depending on where you fall on this, it really does. It might be, it is something that seems small or may seem insignificant. I think its ability to move, I think the ability to move something like this forward really does start to change atmospheres. And so I'm in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So the goal of this is to engage everyone to see if this is something that we can work on together. So this motion isn't necessarily to say we are absolutely going to put this down, but I think it's valuable to have these conversations with the folks who operate in these historical spaces.
Okay. Greg?
Thank you, Mayor. I think doing the research is a good thing, partnering with the library and the Historical Society. And I think obviously they're great resources in our community and they do a lot of great work. If we're talking about doing the research, I think that's a great thing because we should acknowledge where we come from and even the uncomfortable and dark moments in our history. We should be honest about how this all came to be. I'm not ready necessarily to write the land acknowledgement because I want to find out what the research says. But I think doing the research could be a big benefit to the community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nicole?
I'll make a comment now instead of a question. My sister-in-law is Paiute, Shoshone, and Chimshian on her grandfather's side. So when this came up, I figured she would be one of the best people to talk to about this. When I asked her opinion on land acknowledgements, she said, "It humanizes and makes real that the land you live and conduct day-to-day business was once native land. I've met people that said, oh wow, you're Native American? I didn't know you existed anymore." And that really hit home to me, that statement. So I'm gonna support the research. I think this is a simple way of showing respect and a step toward correcting some of the practices that erase Indigenous people's history from the past. So I'm interested to see what the research comes back as. But that statement was reason enough for me to be interested in moving forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll weigh in here. I don't have the same feelings that clearly everybody else has. I look at the rationale here, and this is a way to resist the erasure. I'm focused on what Downers Grove is doing or not doing, and the village of Downers Grove is not erasing anything. We're just not. When we're plowing snow, we're not erasing anything. We don't teach history. We don't conduct celebrations. We don't talk about art. Maybe we should, and perhaps that's what this is a start towards doing. But when I learned down the list of things that in the last 5 to 6 years have been on LRP, high priority action item planning, that have gotten ditched because we did not have the resources to do them, it is a very long list. And it includes all kinds of things. It includes DEI, which we're finally taking some steps down. But it includes policing, it includes road designs, it includes many, many things that affect how we're going to make decisions in the future and what we're going to make decisions on and impact our residents in some particular way, positively or negative. What would we do with this? That's a question. Nicole asked if we're going to read something every day. What would we do with it? We have a statement. I mean, I know this is going to sound ridiculously flippant, and I'm sure somebody on the internet will make a video of it and be mad at me. But it's not possible. There's only a couple outcomes here. The most likelihood, based on what we know about the history of the United States, is that there were indigenous people on this land prior to the U.S. government. The state of Illinois exists because the U.S. government allows it to exist. The village of Downers Grove exists because the state of Illinois allows us to exist. I suppose it's possible that we'll find out that's not the case. I think it's really unlikely. So now what? There's nothing uncomfortable about that. There's nobody here that had any part in that. If the state of Illinois would like to make some sort of a claim and an apology and an acknowledgement, God bless them. They were involved in making those decisions. So is the U.S. government. But we've got a lot of stuff to do that we're not doing. We've got a lot of stuff to do we wish we were doing quicker. And I just don't have any interest in taking staff time to build something that I think turns into nothing more than a footnote. So I clearly hear that I'm in the radical minority on this, and that's okay. I understand that. I would really ask that the DGPL and Historical Society be pushed and prodded and encouraged to be participants in this. I've asked the Historical Society to do some additional research for me on other related subjects because I didn't want to ask our staff to do it. I thought that was important because we all know that the 7 of us are sitting up here making daily decisions, telling people, no, we don't have time. That's what we do all the time. So there's, you know, it's not the end of the world, obviously. Well, that's why we have an odd number of people. That's why we actually take votes. But from my perspective, this is something that doesn't warrant the time taken away from something else to prepare something that may make us feel better about some kind of personal recognition, but unless you see a way or you describe a way that this affects policy decision or scope of operations or which services we're going to give or how we're going to hire people or budgeting decisions, unless you think that's what it's going to affect, I don't see that it's got the value to rise to that. Now, if that's the intention, to affect some of those kinds of things, then I'd love to know a lot more about it. So that's where I'm at.
Real quick, Mayor, that's, I think, what I appreciated about it is the public library was mentioned, the Historical Society was mentioned. Both of those organizations seem, just in knowing people from those organizations, seem like they would be interested in pursuing something like this. And so my hope was that that's what it would be, not necessarily our staff.
That's a whole different animal, sure.
Right, that's just how I interpreted it.
And like I said, we have already engaged a couple of those folks, and they have shown definite interest, so I wouldn't have brought this forward if we hadn't already covered those bases. The other point that I really want to make is that as we approach our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, when we're talking about hiring and attracting people to the village and trying to really get a more diverse village, I would like to question if we're sitting up here saying we have absolutely no interest in recognizing cultures that have been forced out of here, if that's a particularly welcome message to people. Quite frankly, I don't think it is. And so I think if we are going to put forward a diversity, equity, and inclusion effort, it not be a checkbox, I would like us to be living it.
I'm sorry. Can I hop in real quick?
Yep.
I think when, Leslie, when you first read through this, and even as you read through the document that's presented, I think it's very clear that we hear partnership from the very beginning versus burden to the village. And so that's what I heard from the very beginning of that conversation. And so I think we might have heard different things. And again, I think, Leslie, you took what I was going to say. If a land acknowledgement, we have in our priority action items, this concept or this idea, which I have been very clear and been very vocal on, in saying if we're just putting together a proposal that sits in one of our nice binders and sits on the shelf, then we're wasting our time with this issue. But if we are not even in the mindset of addressing something that doesn't even, the burden doesn't even fall on us as it relates to land acknowledgement of a Native people, there's absolutely no way that I think we can step into this conversation of a diversity, equity and inclusion, something that progressive, if we can't handle this. So I think I might have heard something different than that. So that's all I have to say on that.
I think you're exactly right, Kevin, and that's sort of my point, is the objectives and the rationale used in asking for this body to direct the expenditure of staff resources appears to me to be largely box checking. And that's where that's why I made the comment about it. Unless this is going to direct policy decisions, and this is going to direct scope of operations kinds of things. If we see this directing us in some way, that's one thing, but that's not what any of this says. And so, if it says partnership, yeah, but we're asking us right now to direct staff, so it's only sort of partnership. We could also direct staff to write a letter to those folks forwarding this information. If we're going to have this, it shouldn't be a box check. And if it's not a box check, it's way more than just mentioning that there's a few people interested.
I just wanted to mention that I did do a lot of research on this, and I talked to some Native American folks, one who is going to be my son-in-law. He's half Cherokee, half Kuna Indian, and he was very adamant that he felt things that called out, constantly called out our differences was detrimental in the overall, and in fact basically felt that something like a declaration at the beginning of every meeting would be injurious to his feelings, because he felt that that's just a constant reminder of what they don't have anymore, and that it was actually painful to hear that for him. And instead of just moving forward and trying to become all one people. So I just wanted to put that out there. I don't know that I disagree with looking into who lived here before or finding that out. I'm very interested in all of that, what people's lived here. But I just am struggling with the thought of, once we find this out, what we're going to do with it and how best to address it. So.
Yeah, and I feel like Nicole got a little bit of that with, it should never be a thing where we say, well, they were here and then that's it. No, there are living, breathing people who are part of these cultures, who are doing art and making change in the world. And so being able to maybe have those discussions on Indigenous Peoples Day, the library does a lot with that. Maybe it'll drive them to be able to focus a little bit more on those folks that lived here. So yeah, I think it will at least open doors to make us have those conversations about who was here and how we can still honor the cultures that still exist in the United States, but may not be physically in Illinois right now.
I get that, but I guess I'm a little bit struggling with, I'm great with the library, great with the Historical Society, but how this little body fits into that is more the question. And I think maybe the bigger conversation is looking for them to do the research and them to lead the programs, and that's fantastic, but I think that then maybe, to Bob's point, maybe that's better addressed by them and see where it goes from there. I don't have a problem asking them. I'm okay with that. I just struggled as to what we're going to do with it. And if our body of government has something significant to add to that kind of a thing, because we don't do any of that. We do your garbage, we do your water, we do little, very, very basic, very specific things. We do your zoning, but the library kind of does its own thing. The Historical Society does its own thing, and we have partnered with them in the past, and I have no problem partnering with them in the future. Or talking about this on Indigenous Peoples Day or whatever you'd like, but in that respect, but I don't want to do something either that has been stated to me is going to cause people pain either if they hear it repeatedly. So I'm just kind of struggling with where we fit into this little niche. But I'm willing to go with it, and I'm willing to find out and find out more about it.
Yeah, I think the idea is that we're the government, right? So now we are essentially in charge of this.
Well, we are a
So
government.
whether or not we do education programs. Essentially, we are still the village of Downers Grove, and we still represent the community. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in this doesn't help us shoveling snow, and we lose sight of the fact that we are still the people that our residents interface with. We are the first line that people talk to. And we are, whether, it's struggling or not, we are the leadership of the community. And so if we can at least make a statement that we are in support of and working with our partners to acknowledge this, I think that's a step in the right direction when it comes to building a more inclusive community.
All right, Leslie, it was your thing. You kind of wrapped up there. If you got anything more? All right, you need direction from us, yes? And there's been a motion made. And seconded.
Maybe we should ask Rich?
Oh, my goodness, Marge, thank you. Rich?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm sorry, Rich. I should have brought you into this conversation long ago. Please, jump in.
No, I've been listening. As an officer of the Historical Society, I'm certainly interested in all things historical. I know there's some things in the Blue Book about how the founders dealt with the local indigenous people. It's a bit of a chicken and egg scenario. I think we have to move forward with the research, and if we have two organizations, one not-for-profit and another taxing body that's willing to do the heavy lifting on that, when it gets time to put it on the website, I think we need to look at that in the larger context. Is I felt for years that our website needs to be redesigned, and should it be part of that larger effort that will serve certainly a lot of people, and then where's the funding going to come from to do that? And I'm thinking perhaps from those organizations, not speaking officially on the Historical Society's behalf, but even researching potential grants that could even cover a contract headcount or something like that. So yeah, I'm in favor with moving forward with this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thanks, Marge. Leslie, I'll let you wrap up. I think I hear a pretty strong consensus to move forward, but if you got a few last comments, we'll call a vote.
I think we just
Was that a comment there?
Absolutely.
Policy.
Come on down, Mike.
Stereotypically, Native Americans were seen to be living more environmentally sustainably than we do. If you want a policy connection, you might explore that.
Thank you. All right. Rosa, would you call a roll on the motion, please?
Commissioner Sadowski Fugit?
Aye.
Commissioner Gray?
Aye?
Commissioner Colavani?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Commissioner Earl?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Nay. All right. Got clear direction.
Thank you.
Continuing with item 11 on our agenda tonight are the more generic council member reports, generic bad choice words, the broader scope, non-specific things. We'll go ahead and Leslie, we'll start with you tonight.
I'll just continue on with the theme. And I'm going to do another celebration for Women's History Month. I am going to talk about Sachin Littlefeather of the White Mountain Apache and Marquis. She was an actor, a model, and an activist, and one of the original occupiers who seized control of Alcatraz Island to call attention to broken treaties. She's actually most known for making an acceptance speech on behalf of Marlon Brando when he was awarded an Oscar for his performance in The Godfather in 1973. Sachin was only 26 years old when she took the stage in traditional Apache regalia amid a mix of boos and applause from Hollywood elite. She used her platform to bring awareness to the poor treatment of natives in the film industry and to the siege on American Indian movement activists by armed authorities in Wounded Knee, South Dakota. Her brave act was credited with ending the media blackout of the Wounded Knee occupation, but she paid the price. She was blacklisted from the film industry after her Oscar appearance. She persevered, winning an Emmy Award in 1984 for advisory work she did on a PBS special, where she was eventually named the producer. And she co-founded American Indian AIDS Institute of San Francisco, an educational support group, after a few of her friends succumbed to the disease. And today, she embraces her role as an elder. So, again, I would just like to honor Women's History Month. I think we have a rich history of women both on council here and currently with as Commissioner Wallace mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago, and within our staff. I'm very proud of that, and I'm looking forward to continuing those efforts and diversity going forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Nicole?
I'm going to talk about running. Yeah.
You still run?
So I do still run. Yeah, it's everything's virtual these days, but the Downers Grove South Key Club is still having their Mustang Trot 5K. It is virtual. Participants are invited to complete their own 5K run walk anytime between April 10th through 18th. You can choose any route you want. You can go on your treadmill. You can run walk with your family, socially distanced, please, or go on your own. Your registration fee includes a t-shirt, potential awards, and a donation to DuPage Pads, which makes it all worth it. Registration closes on April 10th. You can register online at the District 99 web store. You can also mail in a registration form to Downers Grove South. You can drop off a registration form to Downers Grove South. Or you can drop off the registration form during a drive-through packet pickup. So lots of different options. Registration closes on April 10th. Let's support Downers South and DuPage Pads. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted something I heard this past week stood out, and it's from the commissioners' forum that took place last week, and it simply was one statement, and that was that the upcoming election will define the future of Downers Grove for many years to come. So there's a lot of information taken in that day. What I wanted to do was actually celebrate those men and women who are running for this position, for this role. If you've been up here, then you know what it takes. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy, and to put yourself in that position to serve is a big deal. I've gotten a couple of questions this week on thoughts for that, and I think I even submitted a question to the village to see if, for those individuals that did not watch it online, if there's a way to possibly re-watch it and kind of get some information from that. And so I'll wait to see if I can get that information either from Chamber or from the village. I know it's out there, and share that. But I just want to really thank those individuals that participated or that are even running. The other thing is that I want to invite our community to a civil war. And by that, normally that kind of gives a negative connotation, but what we're talking about is the soccer civil war that will take place at Downers Grove South between South and North. If you've ever been to that game, it is probably one of the funnest things that I've had the chance to participate in my 8 years here in the village. And what you are doing is, it doesn't matter where you lie on the side of what track, you have kids that have grown up together, you have parents that have grown up together, you just have an amazing camaraderie of our community all in one place, all at one time, separate teams, yet still one team. And so if you are not doing anything this Saturday, 10 a.m. is what I think they moved the game back to from today, please come out. Please show support, and it's just a great way to get back to what feels like something of normal, while also interacting and just enjoying individuals from our community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Marge.
Mayor, I just wanted to let everybody know that we had a passing of a good friend of the village of Downers Grove and a longtime volunteer on the TAP Commission. Bill Rovell passed away not that long ago, about a little more than a week ago, and I just wanted to say thank you to his family for sharing him with us for all of those years. He was a great friend of the community. He gave a lot of his personal time doing outreach efforts, and most notably to me was one where he was going up and down Ogden Avenue and asking the businesses to shovel their snow. I think Bob remembers that, and maybe Greg does too, he's smiling. And he literally put his feet and his body where his mouth was and went out and did what he asked all of us to do, and which was be a part of the community and try to go for the better good of all. And I just wanted to let everybody know that we lost him, and we wish his family the best, and they're always, of course, in our thoughts and prayers. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that. Greg?
Thank you, Mayor. I hadn't planned on saying anything, but I didn't know about Bill having passed. That's really sad. I'm going to borrow a term, I think, that was coined by Manager Fieldman. Bill was a professional resident. He was a regular here at Village Hall for council meetings, involved on so many things. It's really sad that we lost him. Just want to ask folks to celebrate St. Patrick's Day tomorrow responsibly, if you're going to. Continue to wear your mask, social distance, and enjoy yourself. Have a green beer. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. The only thing I have to add is this is our last meeting. Man, it is a good thing we have a team, Rich, because I completely forgot you were out there again.
You know, I get it, out of sight, out of mind.
Rich Leslie is waving over there furiously to make sure you get in here. What do you have to add tonight, Rich?
This can be highly personal. I will have been released from Marion Joy Rehabilitation Hospital at what will have been 98 days after going into Good Samaritan on December 11th to fight off COVID pneumonia. I just wanted to thank the amazing outpouring of love, support, prayers from Downers Grove residents and other people around the country, the support and love you've shown my family, myself, is nothing short of heartwarming. So I really appreciate it, and I intend to be at our next face-to-face meeting on April 13th. So thank you very much, everyone.
That's fantastic, Rich. We are all so excited to see you. Really looking forward to that as well. I know every one of us. This is the last meeting before there's an election. And so Kavanaugh mentioned it, and it's worth mentioning again. Everybody, please take the time to vote. Municipal elections sometimes don't get the attention they should, especially when they follow big national elections that wear everybody out and try everybody's patience and make them think politics is nonsense. They don't want to participate in that. This is important stuff, and it has a daily effect on all of our lives. So please, take the time to vote. Take the time to go out and vote. There's lots of opportunities. I think early voting starts on the 22nd. So look around, find a way to vote, get out there, make sure your voice is heard through the ballot box. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you and good night.